What's good with it, Black Goose TV family? Double salute as always. You feel me? We here on Monday, the beginning of the week. And look, I'm gonna be absolutely 100 with y'all, man. Y'all might be a little upset with me when it comes to some of the boxing content I'm gonna be dropping tonight because it's all gonna be surrounding your boy Jake Paul. And I know when it comes to us hardcore boxing fans, we like, look, we tired of the YouTube shit. We tired of the Jake Paul shenanigans, the clown shit, all that good stuff. But let's be 100. There isn't much to cover right now that's much bigger than this topic at hand. And then also, I'm like, look, Black Goose TV family, y'all the smartest people I know, most knowledgeable people I know. So I would love to hear your guys' insight on this entire situation. So I got videos dropping tonight when it comes to this joint. Bear with me if y'all want to be mad at me for the day because I'm, covering some of this YouTube bullshit. I totally understand. I'm not going to take it personally. I get it. I probably do the same thing if I was on the other end of the stick. You feel me? So let's get into these topics. They all going to have to do with Jake Paul, Rahman Jr., all that good stuff. But before we get into this article, hit the like button below. Subscribe to the channel. You feel me? Road to 5K before the end of the year. Notification gang, and of course comment on this joint so I know how y'all feel about this particular subject. So we already know Jake Paul versus Rahman Jr. is not happening. That's fine. That's already been circulated. Y'all can see the video I initially dropped on that joint. That's all good. But the question at hand is, who is at fault, right? Who is the person we should be blaming for this fight being canceled? Now, another question we should be asking is, how anticipated was this fight, right? Because there's something to be said about this being canceled a week before. Whether it was weight issues, ticket sales, bullshit, the fact that they were able to cancel an entire boxing event a week before. Now, mind you, not only was it canceled, but it wasn't even rescheduled or pushed to a later date, which we usually see. It was canceled completely, guys. So the fact that they felt confident enough after spending money on promotions, marketing, bringing in media people, setting up a venue, like, you guys got to understand, they've spent a lot of money already, even if the fight hasn't happened. They're not going to recoup any of this. So for them to cancel a week before the fight, with all the money spent already, well, I won't say all the money, but a lot of money spent already to get to the point where they're at, it's almost mind-blowing to me, because I'm saying, like, or I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, for you to want to do this, it either has to be a serious matter where it's like, yo, this is just, unreprehensible. We can't come back from this. Or y'all really losing money, you feel me? Like, y'all was going to lose a lot more money, so it's like, hey, let's go ahead and just lose this 10 mil that we already put down, but if we would have went ahead with this fight, we'd have lost 50. You see what I'm saying? And now, this is not me taking sides, it's not me putting my personal opinion out here, it's just very, very mind-boggling, it's baffling that we are going to try and sit here and place the blame on Jake Paul or Rahman Jr. on this fight being canceled, when you know how fluents get down. You know, it never comes to the fighters when it comes to boxing being canceled. It never comes to fighters when boxing's being canceled, fights aren't being made, people are saying ducks. Whenever we're talking about two opponents meeting in the ring and it actually happened after the contract is signed, it comes down to the marketing and promotional businesses. When it comes to two fighters meeting in the ring, contracts being sent out for it to be potentially signed, it comes down to marketing, promotion, the business. So it's like, I try, and I've been trying since I've had this channel, to get you guys to love your boxers, be fans of your favorite fighters, but at the same time, understand and be realistic enough to know that the fighter you may not like actually isn't ducking the fighter that you love. It actually has to do everything with business and promotion, right? What am I alluding to? It's obvious. Obviously, I posted a question in the community board to ask you guys who you guys think the blame and the fault is at. And I keep seeing these narratives on YouTube, right? And of course, it's clickbait, right? It's something that's going to keep, get emotions riled up. It's going to get people feeling a certain way when you either are going to place the blame on Rahman Jr., or you placed the blame on Jake Paul. Rahman Jr. was unprofessional. He didn't make, he wasn't cutting weight in time. How are you going to say you agreed to 200 move it up to 205, then move it up to 215. Think of Anthony Joshua did that to Usyk. That's heavyweights. That's a stupid example. And I've seen this. I've seen niggas say this. Think if Canelo and Bivol did that. Do you understand that Canelo moved up from a weight class to go to somebody else's weight class and made his weight? So it wasn't like all these false equivalencies I see in these comment sections of people trying to defend one or the other. Like I see people for Jake Paul saying, no, think about Bivol saying I accept the fight with Canelo. Then all of a sudden he comes in at 190 and say, let's make the fight. That's a false equivalency, you idiots. You can't make that equivalency. Bivol's fought at light heavyweight his entire life. He wouldn't have no reason to miss the weight. Canelo's coming up to him. So if you really want to be equivalent and make that actual assumption, or what if blah blah, what if, then let's do it in the same thing with Rockman Jr. Rockman Jr. is a natural heavyweight, right? He was asked to come down basically around the size of closer to a cruiserweight, but still in the limits of a heavyweight, because you got to remember, you got to be at least 215 to be a heavyweight. So they said, 205, 200. Remember, they have a new weight class, the Bridgerweight. That was the Bridgerweight weight. Bridgerweight is 195 or 200 to like 215, the middle in between from cruiserweight to heavyweight, right? So that's what they're asking him. They're asking him not to fight at his own weight. They're also giving him 4 weeks not to fight at his own weight. These are false equivalencies, guys. You cannot put these. But when I see those things, I understand that people don't watch boxing. I understand Jake Paul is not a boxer. I understand that Jake Paul brings a lot of, random people around who think they know boxing because, they're like, well, this is the rule book. He didn't follow the rules. My nigga, I know you young because boxing is a business. And any successful business has loopholes in all their rules. So please shut the fuck up. But anyways, what I'm saying is, like, I'm not placing the blame on Rockman Jr. I'm not placing it on Jake Paul. It has nothing to do with either of them when it comes to my personal opinion. I think it comes down to business. If I have Showtime Espinosa saying Paul wanted to fight Rockman at 215, but his team didn't. If I have Rockman Jr. saying, hey, I could have still made weight, but they didn't give me the opportunity to do it, this sounds like a business and a financial move. Not because anybody was scared. As much as I hate to say it, I want to say Jake Paul was scared than a motherfucker, but if I'm 24 years old, I got all the money in the world, I have all this money to dispose for me to train. Y'all gonna hate me saying this. I ain't scared of no Rockman Jr. I can't wait to prove y'all niggas wrong. I got this 24-year-old ego. Nigga, I got abs. Nigga, I'm in shape. Nigga, I'm gonna show y'all been talking that shit, and I'm gonna knock out someone heavier than me, excuse me. So I get Jake Paul's aspect. I really don't think Jake Paul's scared. And then I really think Rockman Jr., he wanted the Jake Paul fight. But I think both of their teams got in the way. Let's talk about it. We want to put it on Jake Paul, Rockman Jr. Let's talk about their teams. Jake Paul's team said, if this guy tries to manipulate our contract, we need to not let this happen because he has the ability to do it because it's boxing and we never cancel fights off of weight. So if he chooses to say, I'm going to rehydrate past 215 when I go into that goddamn square, when I go into that ring, he can do that. And we'll dock him and we'll penalize him from his purse. But he can come in as heavy as he wants if he wanted to. It doesn't matter what the contract is signed. That's what you novices don't understand when it comes to boxing, business, anything. You can sign whatever the fuck you want on a contract. But guess what? It's your right and your ability to abide by it. So if you don't abide by it, you either write it enough to understand that I don't have to do everything in this contract. I can use some of these loopholes and y'all can take away some of my purse, but I can come in exactly how I want. That's you can do that. You can do that in boxing, MMA, nigga in real estate, nigga in the office work, nigga in selling cars. Like, nigga, if you don't read the fine print in the contract you sign and you don't understand the loopholes that are there, guess what? You can't utilize them. There's always loopholes. There's always fine print. So it's like there's a lot of young niggas that are coming in and commenting because they're Jake Paul fans and they don't understand. They're like, well, you signed a contract. You need to abide by what the contract said. No, he doesn't, my nigga. There's loopholes in everything. In everything. And Rockman Jr. and his team saw that and they wanted to use that to their advantage. Rockman and his team. His team probably suggested it to him. Let's make the most of this. Jake Paul's team, same way. They said, hey, if Rockman and his team decide to go this way, we're not going to let the fight happen. Well, I'm almost guaranteeing you when we're talking about the two fighters, excuse me, guys, Jake Paul and Rockman Jr., it probably didn't matter what weight it was going to happen at. They want to fight. And that's what I'm trying to just tell the people. Like, even when this comes in the aspect, and this might reach more people than me, because I've done a million videos like on this same exact topic talking about like Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence, Demetrius Andrade, Jamal Charlo, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. Like all these things has nothing to do with one fighter ducking the other fighter. You know what I'm saying? You're probably like, oh, you're giving Jake Paul too much credit. Look, like I said, if I'm 24 years old, I have all the money in the bank, and I'm using the majority of that money to train, I'm going to be as confident as any other boxer out there, and I'm going to feel like I can knock anybody out. So that just is what it is. Any of y'all niggas who ain't really put their all into something, you don't understand that type of confidence, okay? And you have to have that in the, anyways. So I'm not putting the blame on either one of them. I think both of them, if this fight week would have happened normal and they would have went to weigh-ins, I think everything would have proceeded as normal. I think both of the teams, Jake Paul and his team, and let me take out Jake Paul, but Jake Paul's team, they were like, I'm a little worried about this fight. If he doesn't follow the stipulations, we're going to pull it. Rockman Jr. and his team, well, not Rockman Jr., but his team, they were probably like, I'm a little worried about this fight. We're going to manipulate this and use it how we want to. Let's see if we can call him on his bluff. In the end, they both lost out. So I'm not going to get crazy into the article because I already talked a little bit too much on this. But I do want to see what Stephen Espinoza had to say about this. So for his part, Jake wanted to take the fight even at 215. But I think cooler heads prevailed. His team did not allow him to fight at 215, and I absolutely agree with that. Jake should not be coming into a fight at 195, 200 and fight someone who might be at 225 or 230, excuse me. Jake walks around at 195. He's not going to be heavier than that. That's the problem with 215. It's not that Jake didn't want to. He wanted to, but the reality is everyone around him, and I think rightfully so, said that's not a safe fight to take with a potential 20 to 30 pound difference in weight. No one was okay with Jake going in there fighting someone who can be 20 to 30 pounds heavier than him. So I believe the statement and I agree with the statement. It's just the problem that's going to come from this when it comes to people who don't understand contracts, who don't understand boxing, don't understand the business side of it, where it can definitely outweigh the fighter's opinion the majority of the times, 95% of the time, unless you're your own entity like Canelo. Yeah, they're going to be like, hey, we're not going to allow this to happen. So they allowed the initial agreement to happen because they're Jake Paul's and his team is monitoring. This guy needs to make the weight. If he decides not to and use the loopholes that are present, we're canceling. Rockman Jr. and his team was like, we'll make the weight, but we're also going to use the loopholes where I'll make the weight, but I'm going to rehydrate past the 210. You said I can't rehydrate past, and I'll take the penalty. Right? So both of them said we're going to take chances. Jake Paul and his team hope that the stipulations behind the contract will be able, and the payday and the love and the attention will seduce Rockman and Jr. and his team enough to abide by it because they're looking for that quick buck and they're looking for that quick Hall of Fame. They're looking for that quick, little jolt of fame from Jake Paul and fighting him. Rockman Jr. and his team said, we don't care about none of that shit, nigga. We legit, we boxers. We're going to cut the weight, but we're going to rehydrate past 210. Let's see if Jake Paul is really about that life, or at least his team is, and they're willing to continue penalize us for going past the rehydration clause and letting the fight happen, which happens a million times, right? They both tried to call each other's bluff, and what happened? It blew up in both of their faces. Simple as that. That's my quick rundown of everything. I don't know how clear that was, man. I feel like I was a little bit all over the place because I got a little passionate, got a little into certain things, but hopefully I was able to shed some light on some shit that y'all wasn't able to think clearly on. And even if I didn't, and even if it felt like, yeah, I am saying you're biased, blah, 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 I really don't give a fuck because at the end of the day, Jake Paul is not a boxer. Not yet. Not yet. So I don't give a fuck about none of this shit. But it's boxing news. So your boy's here, and I'm going to report as always, man. Fluence Boxing in the building, man. Ooh, we got a lot of fire content coming out tonight, man. I'm dropping a re-download of a debate I had with one of my guys on Friday, Dub Right Side. It was a good time. Make sure y'all guys check out that. I'm gonna put out one clip tonight. If it's not tonight, it's going to be tomorrow from the Fluence Lounge from Saturday because that joint got blocked. So y'all look out for that. And then obviously we got this here Jake Paul Rockman Jr. Content as well. Salute to the people, man. Hit the likes button, subscribe to the channel. Much love. Road to 5K. You already know what it is on All Sports Nigga Side of the Game. I'll be back, but with more boxing.